Please give a round of applause for Nini.
Thank you. POV. You're in a climbing meeting with your boss. Your boss has a hissy fit and storms out. I'm talking a toddler-style tantrum, but you know, in a grown-ass body. You're stranded now because unfortunately that was your ride. And somehow this all feels like your fault. Your client drives you home, and during that drive, they beg you to leave your job because your boss is a piece of work. But you don't take their advice because, well, guilt has a funny way of leading you off course. Now, I hate to leave you on a cliffhanger, but Izzy said it's good for storytelling, so we'll have to circle back to that. I am a child of immigrant parents who fled from the Khmer Rouge War, a war that killed over 30% of Cambodia's population. I've known this fact all my life, but I never really knew what to make of it growing up. I knew it was hard, I knew it was sad, and I knew I had it real good compared to my parents, so I better act like it. My kid brain thought as long as I always made the right decision at all times, I'd make their efforts worth it, and I'd never have to confront these complicated feelings of guilt. Ever. Pretty fail-proof, right? Wrong. Especially if you're like 12, fully convinced you'll be in the next big K-pop girl group. But wait, Nini, you're not even Korean. Why K-pop? Simply put, I was first captivated by K-pop, by the K-pop industry, because it was the first time I had really seen someone that sort of looked like me on a big stage. And a lot of them at that. Some of these groups had 9 members. And on top of that, they dressed just as loud, if not louder, than I did. And as a kid that was always told that life isn't a fashion show by teachers, classmates, and relatives, K-pop made me feel seen. My pursuit to become a K-pop idol was innocent, but also so serious. I took singing lessons, learned choreography from YouTube videos, and my outfits got even wackier from the influence. I would even participate in K-pop auditions. Bleeding Love by Leona Lewis was my go-to audition song because as a middle schooler, I could obviously relate to the lyrics. My heart's crippled by the vein that I keep on closing. You cut me open and die. Keep bleeding. Keep bleeding, love. And I'd follow that up with a freestyle dance to Boom Boom Pow by Black Eyed Peas. As you might have guessed, this whole K-pop dream of mine did not work out, but I did gain a whole lot from the experience, like friendships, a newfound appreciation for my Asianness, and an interesting sense of style. Like I said before, K-pop made me feel seen in my fashion choices, but my exploration in fashion began much earlier than that. These fashionable folks are my parents. Dad's signature look often includes a print, a statement blazer, or both. And my mom, she just wears whatever the hell she wants. A lot of her clothes and mine were made by her. She would even let me design some, which started out as just having me pick out colors and fabrics. And then eventually, Mom gave me the creative freedom to go rogue. Questionable. But by high school, I started designing and sewing more independently, which brought to life these only slightly questionable creations. Mom is a seamstress and learned how to sew, crochet, knit, you name it, during her time at a refugee camp, Kawadong Holding Center. These skills funded her schooling there and eventually her life here in Canada. I grew up around the sounds of sewing machines, loose thread everywhere, and the freedom to express myself however I wanted through my clothes, no matter the occasion. Oh, it's my brother's birthday? Let me just throw in something casual. And suddenly, I'm 18, having to decide my lifelong career. My parents made it clear that taking a gap year between high school and post-secondary wasn't an option, so I had to think quick. What am I good at? What makes me happy? What would provide the same level of stability that my parents built from the ground up here in Canada? I've always felt very lucky that my parents never conformed to the Asian stereotypes of wanting me to pursue safer options like the medical field or law, so the pressure and guilt fostering inside me didn't stem from that, but instead came from moments of sacrifice. Like when they both worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, when my dad would sleep in his car outside of my singing classes because he just worked overtime, or when my mom would sew 500 plus pairs of pants for $1.50 each for a clothing manufacturer so she could work from home and be there for my brother and I. Witnessing all this put a weight on my shoulders, a belief that I was an extension of my parents and therefore I had to live up to whatever I thought I owed them. Success, whatever that is the only option. And so, with all that being said, I went on to pursue fashion marketing and management. Fashion because it has always been my ride or die, a huge part of my identity, and marketing and management because it felt practical. It made me feel better. It made me feel safe. It was like a built-in backup plan. Nini 1, potential guilt, shame, and embarrassment 0. The years fly by. I'm graduating. I'm on the hunt for a marketing job because even though I deemed marketing as my backup plan, fashion felt unattainable. So to protect myself, I didn't even try. Instead, I launched a YouTube channel thinking that'll scratch my fashion itch. Good news! I'm looking for my first apartment now because I just got my first big girl job in marketing, 2 hours away from home. Everyone around me is telling me how amazing it is I've landed a cushy office job so young and so quick. They're proud of me, and you know what? I'm proud of me too. Remember when I said we'd circle back to the intro? It's that time, so buckle up. I start my new job. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, excited to be the new marketing gal on the block, excited to have clients of my own, helping them establish their online presence through their website, social media, graphics, blogging. Everything is so new and shiny. Before I know it, that giddiness turns into anxiety. I'm being ridiculed for asking a question. I'm being called stupid because my 20-year-old brain doesn't know everything. I'm being belittled because this is fuel for motivation. I eat this up. This is what I get for being young, dumb, and newly graduated. My boss isn't holding back, and I should be thankful because this is how I'll grow and better my skills. I deserve this. Besides, my parents escaped war to give me such a privileged life. Surely I could handle a few harsh words. The verbal abuse starts to escalate beyond work hours. I remember this night so clearly. I'm home for the weekend, in my childhood bedroom with my laptop in front of me, reading the most unhinged email from my boss. I want to include screenshots of those emails here, but I don't have access to them anymore, so please enjoy these raving reviews left from past employees instead. Anyways, I resigned right then and there. Every inch of my body is boiling. I'm sobbing. When my mom comes up the stairs with my brother and sees me, I tell them I quit my job. They hug me and tell me that everything will be okay. I'm riddled with guilt and shame and feel like the biggest failure. The world keeps spinning, and I land a new marketing job. This time, I'm a little more jaded, a little more timid, a lot more eager to please. It wasn't long before cracks started to show, and I'm thrust back into yet another abusive work environment. I'll spare you the details and instead paint a picture with just a few bite-sized examples. They'd tell me I was too nice and therefore would never succeed. They described me as exotic and believed that men and women couldn't be friends. I'm proud to say that I did challenge that notion because what the fuck? I was let go, and when they gave me a farewell hug, they said something along the lines of, "Good luck with your little fashion thing," referring to my dreams of being in the fashion industry someday. Thankfully, things did get better. I went on to work for a great marketing agency and really found my stride in the industry. I led meetings and managed 20 plus clients on my own. I felt empowered. I felt unstoppable. But it was only a matter of time before burnout started to kick in. I mean, the universe really put me through the ringer there. I've never felt anything like this before. Thankful to have a stable job, thankful to have great coworkers, thankful to have mostly great clients, but also so tired, so exhausted, and so stuck. I felt guilty for feeling this way. I felt greedy for wanting more because everyone around me is telling me just how lucky I am. And I agree with them. I know I'm lucky because I'm not where I was just a few years ago. I need to hold on to this. I go to work, come home, mope around until bedtime, and repeat for months. Until one day I wandered into a local vintage market. Now, I wasn't new to secondhand shopping. Actually, my first YouTube video was a thrift haul. What was new to me, though, was the community. More specifically, a creative community that shared the same interests and values as me. So I kept going back, and eventually I would become a vintage reseller myself. It felt so good and so natural to appreciate and share my love for fashion in this way, and it felt even better knowing that I wasn't letting anyone down. I get to keep my corporate job and have a side hustle that is completely mine. Nini 2, potential, guilt, shame, and embarrassment, 0. If we totally disregard the workplace abuse. I'm participating in markets, running fundraisers, and sourcing bags and bags and bags of products from thrift stores. I start receiving feedback from shoppers, which is so cool because that means they care and they want to see my side hustle grow and be the best version it can be. I want the same, of course. People want more denim pieces? Got it. People want more variety? Got it. People want more inclusivity? Got it. Wait. Maybe I don't got it, because now I'm being told I'm taking away pieces from the plus size community. And they're right, and that's not fair. Their section is already so limited. But wait, there's a bigger picture here. There's a whole community of folks that rely on thrift stores, not by choice, but by circumstance. And I'm taking that away from them. This thought sticks with me, and I can't seem to shake it. Now let me make this crystal clear. I love secondhand shopping, and I encourage everyone to shop secondhand. But you need to understand, when I said I was bringing home bags and bags and bags of products, I mean it. This level of secondhand shopping was more selfish than it was sustainable. I had no niche, no direction, just buying at thrift stores to curb FOMO, to beat out competition, and to overcompensate for the fact I wasn't fully committing to a fashion brand because this way, I didn't have to deal with the risk or rejection. And as I'm sure you've noticed by this point, I will do anything in my power to avoid the weight of having a guilty conscience. So I knew something had to change before my happy little safe space felt, well, not happy or safe. The questions that I asked myself leading up to college came to mind again. What am I good at? What makes me happy? What would provide the same level of stability that my parents built from the ground up here in Canada? Well, fashion. If we ignore question number 3. The answer didn't change, but this time it was more defined, more sure. I took this bump in the road as a sign to give this little fashion thing, as my old boss called it, a real college try. I'm doing a ton of research, ordering fabric swatches from all over Canada, talking to local manufacturers, sketching designs on paper, on my computer, using a mouse, by the way, RIP to my wrist. I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's so fun and so exciting. There's so much change happening all at once. My boyfriend just graduated, we just moved to Ottawa, he's starting his first big boy job, I'm working remotely with my marketing agency while rebranding my side hustle to be a full-fledged, ethically made clothing brand. And oh yeah, COVID is around the corner. But let's just focus on the rebrand part specifically. I'm in over my head. But weirdly enough, the shift doesn't feel nearly as scary or as daunting as I thought it would be. It just feels right. And I swear the universe is telling me the same thing too, because there's big internal changes happening at my marketing job now. So I resign and take this as another sign to really commit to my fashion brand. This is all happening in private, by the way. The rebrand, the design, the absence of the stable corporate job. My loved ones had no clue. I wasn't ready to face reality just yet, so I let myself sit in La La Land for just a little longer. Dallows of fabric start showing up at my front door. Patterns of my designs are in the works, and a sample fitting is booked for next week. Shit is getting real, and so is the guilt of keeping my loved ones in the dark. I know I just need to rip the Band-Aid off, so I brace myself for impact and tell my family everything I've told you this far. But with a little less emotional turmoil and more conviction, because I'm basically trying to convince them that I'm doing the right thing, even though I'm not really sure if I am. And to my surprise, they accept my career change without hesitation. I'm sure they had their worries, but they also probably thought, well, this isn't nearly as far-fetched as K-pop. It probably didn't hurt that I also rebranded to with Nini. Nini is my Cambodian name and the name my parents originally wanted to give to me, but didn't in fear of racism. They were in the thick of it themselves, dealing with stereotypes and having their cars egged on a weekly basis. So they opted for something safer, but once I moved to Ottawa, I just started going by Nini to pay homage to my Cambodian roots. But also, it's just cuter. With my parents' approval, I launched my very first clothing lines, Whimsy, Take Care, and Warm Hug. I was on cloud 9. These 3 collections were designed by me and ethically made in Canada. Not by my own hands, but by a local manufacturer that I hired. It was awesome learning and working with people in the industry. But for whatever reason, I carried this lingering sense of shame. Can I even call myself a fashion designer if I don't even have a formal education in fashion design? Am I really a fashion designer if I didn't sew every seam? Is this imposter syndrome or simply the truth? If you were to ask my boyfriend, he would say, Chanel doesn't even design all their pieces and they're not less of a designer because of it. And he's right. But I'm really stubborn. And thus the beginning stages of yet another pivot. I vent to my mom, who from the very beginning of With Nini has expressed wanting to help. I finally take her up on her offer with a clear boundary set. If With Nini impacts our mother-daughter relationship, I am pulling the plug. She thinks I'm being dramatic. My mom and I join forces, and we have a great thing going. I design, we stumble our way through sample making, and then we sew the final product. She tells me if a design is too scandalous. I yap her ear off while sewing, and she enables all of my crazy ideas. This is when With Nini's signature look starts to take shape, and Whimsy is no longer a clothing line, but a direction. And now we've made it to modern day. I know it sounds like everything just fell into place, and it's all rainbows and butterflies from here, but that's not really how the cookie crumbles. I still very much carry bouts of guilt, shame, and self-doubt in everything I do, but I handle it differently now. For example, delegation brings on a weird sense of guilt because bringing in more people might threaten my authenticity and my already crumbling insecurity surrounding my title as fashion designer. But I also know that delegation is a necessary part of growth, and frankly, I'd love for my mom to retire eventually, so bringing in more help would only mean we get closer to that goal. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is, you've got to choose your battles. I'm actively learning to give myself the time and space to process and be only slightly dramatic before reacting on impulse. The guilt no longer takes me off course, it just shows me that I care, but it doesn't get the final say. 7 years. It took 7 years to get to this point, and it only required 1 shattered K-pop dream, 2 abusive workplaces, a loss of self, lots of gaslighting, and so much self-imposed guilt to wind up exactly where I was meant to be all along. Oh, and there's one more thing. If you're one of my old bosses and you're curious of how my little fashion thing is going, let me just show you. Cue fashion show.